Yes, he's finally here, and oh. What's going on, everybody? Republic Cinema here, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at the new Transformers Studio Series Age of Extinction leader class, Optimus Prime. Now, before I move on, I want to point out this review isn't going to be those type of reviews where I go on rambling about, oh, well, this figure's this and that. If you know me, I'm a huge fan of Bayverse stuff, and especially Studio Series Bayverse figures, this figure being no exception. So in this review, you won't hear too many complaints from me, but at the same time, I'll be a little honest, too. Anyways, I am glad this figure is finally here, and I can't wait to take a look at him. So before we take a closer look at the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging, which of course is the 2025 updated packaging. Not only is the box art, shape, and size different, but gone is the studio backdrop and the numbering system. On the front of the box, you get this nice artwork of Optimus Prime in his truck mode. On the top, you get the Transformers Age of Extinction logo, along with Optimus Prime's name. On the right side of the box art is an extension to the artwork of Optimus Prime on the front. And on the left side, I believe, is the same artwork from the front, just zoomed in. And then you turn to the back, and you get a little more info of what you get inside. As you can see, the original render is missing a lot of paint, especially at the feet. But anyways, that's enough of the packaging. Of course, there is also plastic windows. I forgot to point that out. But anyways, back to the figure. Starting off, the painting and sculpting is pretty good. While the painting is a little lackluster in some parts, most notably some missing flames, I'm glad the other parts of this figure are still painted accurately. I'm also a big fan of the head sculpt too, which I believe is also painted at a respectable degree of accuracy. Same thing with the chest. Also, notice that Autobot logo right smack in the middle. Now, I'm sure what would have made the figure's paint scheme look a little better is if all of this light gray on the figure was a little more on a darker shade, because usually that makes the figures look a lot better. The camera doesn't do it justice, but as you can see, there's a darker shade of gray on the hand and over this part, which is a little different from the shading of gray that they used for the shoulder and the rest of the grayed parts of this figure. I personally think this shading of gray would have made this figure look a lot better. Anyways, back to the detail. Of course, this figure does look really nice in terms of detail. I'm actually surprised they went with the pre-Knight Optimus Prime arms, which perhaps gives us an opportunity to see the Knight version of the Age of Extinction Optimus Prime, or maybe a TLK-themed Knight Optimus Prime. However, I am aware that next year there is going to be a Studio Series The Last Knight Nemesis Prime, which I am most excited for. I believe that's where we'll see the post-Knight arms. Moving on to kibble, this figure does have a lot of kibble, most notably the backpack and the legs, along with what's going on in the shoulders over here. But what you can do with the backpack is you could actually remove it, which does showcase a bit of a hollow back. However, the designers managed to have this part of the back accurate, along with the tiny smokestacks. But can you remove this? I mean, I guess you could, if it weren't for the pins over here. The only thing you can remove is this piece right here, which this is what the leg looks like without that piece. To be honest, it's not much of a difference. And for the record, if you're wondering, there is no way to remove this kibble, especially since it tabs onto the chest over here. But anyways, for the quality, or at least for my copy, the joints are not too tight, not too loose. Everything is just fine. Now let's move on to his accessories. Starting off with his nice looking sword. To plug the sword onto the hand, the fingers actually open up, and all you gotta do is just plug it in, close the hands, and there you have Optimus Prime equipped with his Sword of Judgment, which you could also have both of his hands gripping onto the sword. You can also untab the handle from the sword, which kind of looks like the staff from the Last Knight. He does come with a smaller sword that he used to fight Galvatron with, which you can have plug into his arm by moving his hand down, which will reveal a port, and then all you gotta do is just plug that in, and there you have Optimus Prime equipped with his sword. You can also have him hold it with his hand, and you can have it store on the side of Prime's backpack. Next is his shield, which I believe had a name, but I kind of forgot what it was. It simply just plugs in onto the side of the arm, and there you have Optimus Prime equipped with his shield. Another thing you can do with this shield is you could take apart these panels over here. If you plug the side panels onto the ports farthest away from this part over here, you're left with Optimus Prime's shield and gun mode. If you want, you can change the way it looks by just simply spreading out these two parts. I've seen other people on social media do the same thing with their copy of Studio Series Optimus. And if you want to store both the Sword of Judgment and the shield on the backpack, you're just going to flip open this panel over here. And then here's another piece Prime comes with that simply plugs it onto that port over there. With this piece attached onto the backpack, you can go ahead and slide the sword through that slot, and then that port over there will connect to the tab from the shield. And there you have the complete weapon storage of Prime's accessories. Anyways, that's pretty much it for accessories. However, I do wish he came with the stryker gun, considering this is a leader class and a rather small leader class at that. And despite that he comes with 3 melee accessories, I'm still surprised they included this one. I still think he should have came with at least 1 more accessory. That of course being the stryker gun. But if you do happen to have the accessory kit for the buy-away knockoff of the Studio Series 32 Optimus Prime, then you should have the stryker gun that comes with that accessory kit. And of course, here you have the Studio Series Age of Extinction Optimus, along with the knockoff of the stryker gun, which in my opinion, this accessory better suits this figure, considering it's the pre-night Optimus and not the post-night. I've also noticed with the stryker gun is that it clicks on to the hand nicely. Anyways, I think that's pretty much it for accessories. Now moving on to articulation. Starting off, he has a ball joint at the head. In case you're wondering, you can remove the head, much like the Voyager class TLK version. Anyways, the head can look up and down and can swivel. Full rotation at the arm. Shoulder pads move out and can also move even more out. Bend at the shoulder, biceps swivel, double bend at the elbow, wrist swivel, the wrist can move up and down, the fingers can move out, waist swivel, the front skirt moves out, and so do the side skirts, the legs can spread, the legs can move forward and backwards, thigh swivel, bend at the knee, the foot is on a swivel, can also rock from side to side, and lastly, the front of the foot can move up and down, and so can the heel spur. And that sums it up for the articulation. Again, considering this figure is a leader class, there is a lot of articulation involved with this figure, but obviously not as much as this guy, that's for sure. Speaking of which, let's move on to size comparison. Starting off with some fellow Primes, here he is next to the Transformers The Last Knight Voyager class Optimus Prime, Transformers Age of Extinction Leader class Optimus Prime, specifically the Takara movie advanced version, Yola Park Knight Optimus. For some other Primes, here he is next to the 04 Optimus Prime mold, 32 Prime, 38 Prime, 102 Prime, TF1 Prime, 86 Prime. For some mainline Age of Extinction figures, here he is next to the Lost Age Ratchet, movie advanced High Octane Bumblebee, Crosshairs, Hound, Evasion Mode Optimus Prime, and then for some Studio Series, here he is alongside the buzzworthy High Octane Bumblebee, Drift, Crosshairs, Stinger, KSI Sentry, Lockdown, the Shadow Raider, Galvatron, the KSI Boss, Grimlock, and then lastly for his fellow Wavemates, here he is alongside Studio Series Dark of the Moon Q, TF1 B127, TF1 Devastation Prime, recently reviewed the 86 Bone Crusher, and the 86 Scrapper, War for Cybertron Ironhide, and lastly, here he is next to the Studio Series TF1 Sentinel Prime. But one more time, here he is along with the rest of the Studio Series Age of Extinction themed figures. I believe this is all of them. Anyways, we are of course missing a plethora of characters from Age of Extinction in the Studio Series toy line, such as the Studio Series versions of both the High Octane and the updated Camaro Bumblebee, and Age of Extinction themed Crosshairs, Hound, more KSI Sentries, the KSI 2 heads, of course more of the Dinobots. We're also missing both the Night version of the Age of Extinction Optimus Prime, along with a Studio Series Evasion Mode Optimus Prime. Oh, and can't forget the KSI Junkions, which were the 3 KSI drones that transformed into that garbage truck. Oh, and Oreobot. Can't forget Oreobot. And aside from an Age of Extinction themed battle damaged Ratchet, Leadfoot, Barricade, and maybe a Decepticon protoform if such a toy existed, I suppose that's all we're missing. Be sure to let me know down in the comments what else we're missing from Age of Extinction that I forgot to mention. Also, be sure to leave a comment down below which figure out of all of the Age of Extinction figures that have been released so far is your favorite. But now I think is finally time we move on to the transformation, which unlike the previous figures that we've taken a look at, this guy's transformation is pretty complex, but luckily I've memorized the steps, which I was worried I wasn't. Anyways, to start off, you're gonna untab this panel and straighten this panel out like so. Same for the other panel, and then you're gonna bring this panel down, bring this backpack out, rotate it, also bring out this panel. After that, leave it like so, because then we're gonna work on the arms, which were pretty confusing for me. But what you're going to want to do is rotate the arms 180 and then fold them in like so. Bring the shoulder pad forward. Don't tab it yet. Bring this out. Same thing for the other arm. After that, untab this whole assembly over here, which will untab the shoulders from the chest. Untab the chest from these two blue parts over here, and then shift it upwards without untabbing this section right here. You can go ahead and close that in. Just make sure this assembly is moved out to the max, and then spread these out. Next thing you're going to want to do is close in the side skirts. Open up these blue parts, make sure they're pushed in all the way. After that, close this in. Same thing with this part. Make sure you close this in. Also close in the front skirt. And then to work on the arms, bring this out just a bit. Bring out this panel over here, which will reveal a tab where there's a slot on the arm, which will connect to each other. After that, straighten this out, make sure it closes in like so, and then bring it up. Once you've done the same thing for the other side, you can go ahead and connect the two together. Bring down the side panel, bring down the other side panel. Make sure it closes onto the slot too. And then this part's a little tricky. You're gonna bring down this top panel over here. Make sure that it closes on right there. And there you have one half of the truck mode finished. Now time to move on to the second half. Rotate this entire assembly. To work on one leg, bring it down, close in the feet, rotate it to that degree. Bring this whole assembly out, bring this out, and then also bring this blue panel out like so. Leave it out right there, and then bring this panel out. Untab the wheels, and then bring this little piece out like so. Bring out this long panel and leave it right there. You do the same thing for the other side. Close these in. Make sure all three of these tabs are closed in like so. Same thing with this assembly. Make sure all the tabs are tabbed in. After that, bring this whole assembly down. Make sure that it tabs in onto the first half of the truck mode. Also make sure all the tabs tab in nicely well. You can go ahead and close in these panels. Before closing this over here, make sure that this slot pegs in onto that tab right there. Also plug this in, and then close in the wheels too. You do the same thing for the other side. And here you have the Studio Series Age of Extinction Optimus Prime in his alt mode. And this alt mode is just mwah! The sculpting and painting on this toy version of the Western Star semi-truck is just spot on, especially on the front. Look at that. I'm also impressed with how good the Autobot logo on the front of the grills looks, especially since this is a very small Autobot logo. Of course, you turn to the back and you do see a little bit of hollowness along with some robot mode kibble sticking out, but since everything tabs in fairly well, I suppose it's not so much of a problem. But other than that, the painting is awesome for the truck mode. Also, as you can see, I'm sure this is where the budget for the red paint went to, or at least most of it. Anyways, for accessory storage, you could plug all this onto the trailer hitch. For the smaller sword, the slot from the small sword pegs it onto the tab on the side of the truck like so. And yeah, that's pretty much accessory storage for the truck mode. Another thing to point out for this truck mode is that this truck mode is heavily trailer compatible with most of Hasbro's modern trailers. Here he is alongside the Studio Series 44 Optimus Prime's trailer, the byway knockoff of that trailer, which isn't compatible, but I still wanted to showcase this figure alongside that trailer. And then here he is with the Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime's trailer, which looks awesome. For a brief comparison, here he is alongside the TLK Voyager class Optimus Prime in his alt mode, the Age of Extinction Leader class Optimus Prime in his alt mode. Here he is along with the two. And yeah, there's your brief comparison. And I think that's pretty much it. I think that's all I had to say for the Transformers Studio Series Leader Class Age of Extinction Optimus Prime. Do I recommend you pick this figure up? Most definitely. If you're a big Bayverse fan and a big Bayverse Optimus Prime fan such as myself, especially for this design in specific, this figure is most definitely something I recommend you pick up. And if you are looking to pick this figure up, he is available over on Amazon.com, and I believe in other online retailers as well. Personally, I have yet to see this figure out in the wild. Be sure to let me know in the comments if you have seen this figure at perhaps Walmart or even Target or GameStop. Anyways, I can't wait for the Nemesis Prime version coming out next year, and I suppose it would be cool if Hasbro in the future makes a TLK and Age of Extinction themed post-night Optimus Prime version of this figure, which basically all they have to do is repaint the Nemesis Prime Optimus. After all, that one would have the Knight forearms. Of course, both post-night Studio Series Optimus Prime versions would have to look different in terms of paint shading, but again, that's just a what-if scenario. Now, if Byway were to ever make a knockoff of this figure, well, not only do I hope they make their official knockoff version of this figure, but also a Nemesis Prime repaint, perhaps a white and blue Ultra Magnus repaint as well, and of course a black Nemesis Prime repaint. Well, two of them actually. One would have to be with purple flames, the other with green, and who knows, maybe a shiny, more silvery repaint of that knockoff of this figure, kind of like what they did with the 32 Optimus Prime. But considering they didn't make too many repaints of the SS-102 Optimus Prime knockoff that they did last year, they're probably going to tone it down with this figure too. But hey, if they make all those repaints that I pointed out, then yeah, I'm going to go broke. But anyways, if you like what you saw in this video, be sure to slam that like button, share this with your friends as well, turn on post notifications so that way you don't miss another upload, let me know how I did in this review video, and most importantly, be sure to hit that big red subscribe button. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you very much for watching. Teo! Also, one more thing I forgot to mention is that the smaller sword can actually peg onto the lower part of the shield, and since all of this is plugged in as well, you can actually have all of his accessories stored in one arm. Hold up, let me make it better. No, actually, let me make it look just a little better. Okay, no one's watching anymore.